The arrival. The gleaming spires of the galactic Concordat Academy pierced the purple sky of Zeta Reticuli IV, a testament to the advanced civilization that had built it. Inside the main auditorium, a diverse array of alien species buzzed with anticipation. Today marked a historic occasion, the first human to ever set foot in this prestigious institution. Professor Zixlorth, a tall, willowy being with iridescent skin, tapped his tentacle-like appendage against the holopodium. The excited chatter gradually died down as he cleared his throat equivalent. Esteemed colleagues and students, Zixlorth's voice reverberated through the hall. Today we welcome a representative from a species that has only recently joined the Galactic Concordat. I present to you, from the planet Earth, Alexis Chen. The doors at the far end of the auditorium slid open with a soft hiss. A collective gasp rippled through the audience as a small bipedal figure strode in. Alexis Chen, dressed in a simple Earth military uniform, walked with a confident gait that belied her status as a newcomer to galactic society. As Alexis made her way to the stage, whispers erupted among the alien students. "So fragile-looking," murmured a bulky Croxian, his rocky skin grating as he leaned towards his neighbor. "I heard their planet is a death world," chittered an insectoid Vespid. "How did they even survive to achieve spaceflight?" Alexis reached the stage, her brown eyes scanning the crowd with curiosity rather than fear. She stood beside Professor Zixlorth, barely reaching his midsection. "Thank you for the warm welcome, Professor," Alexis said, her voice clear and steady. "I'm honored to be here and excited to learn alongside beings from across the galaxy." Zixlorth's skin shimmered with what passed for a smile among his species. "We are equally excited to learn from you, Cadet Chen. Perhaps you could share a bit about your background." Alexis nodded. "I've served in Earth's combined defense forces for 5 years. My specialty is in adaptive tactics and crisis response. I'm here to study advanced xenobiology and galactic diplomacy." A tentative appendage rose from the middle of the auditorium. Zixlorth acknowledged the question with a gesture. "Yes, student Blixa." A gelatinous being quivered as it spoke. "Is it true that humans engage in physical combat for recreation? How do you avoid fatal injuries?" Alexis chuckled, a sound that made several nearby aliens flinch. "It's true that many humans practice martial arts or contact sports. We have ways to minimize risk, but yes, injuries do happen. It's part of how we challenge ourselves and grow stronger." The auditorium erupted in a cacophony of shocked exclamations and curious inquiries. Zixlorth had to wave all 4 of his upper limbs to restore order. Please," he said, "there will be time for more questions later. For now, let us proceed with the orientation." As the presentation continued, Alexis couldn't help but notice the mixture of fear, curiosity, and in some cases, disdain in the eyes, or equivalent sensory organs, of her fellow students. She had expected this, of course. Humans were newcomers to the galactic stage, and their reputation as beings from a death world preceded them. What the aliens didn't realize was that this reputation was precisely why Alexis had been chosen for this exchange program. Earth's leaders hoped that by showcasing human adaptability and resilience, they could secure a more prominent place in galactic affairs. The orientation concluded, and students began to file out of the auditorium. As Alexis made her way towards the exit, she found herself surrounded by a group of curious aliens. "Is it true that humans can survive in temperatures that would freeze most species solid?" asked a floating gas bag creature. "I heard you can regrow lost limbs. Is that correct?" inquired a multi-armed being. Alexis raised her hands, smiling diplomatically. "Some of what you've heard about humans is true. Some is exaggerated. We're tough, sure, but we're not invincible. I'm here to learn, just like all of you." As she spoke, Alexis noticed a tall, metallic being observing her from a distance. Its featureless face was unreadable, but she could sense an aura of calculation emanating from it. Professor Zixlorth glided over, dispersing the crowd of curious students. "Cadet Chen, Allow me to show you to your quarters. You'll need rest before classes begin tomorrow." As they walked through the winding corridors of the academy, Zixlorth's skin rippled with concern. "I must warn you, Cadet Chen. Not all members of the Galactic Concordat are enthusiastic about humanity's rapid ascension to the galactic stage. You may face some challenges here." Alexis nodded, her expression serious. "I understand, Professor. Earth has faced challenges before. We're ready for whatever comes our way." They reached a door that slid open to reveal a small, sterile room. It was clearly designed with a variety of alien physiologies in mind, with strange apparatuses that Alexis couldn't begin to guess the purpose of. "Rest well, Cadet," Zixlorth said. "Tomorrow, your real tests begin." As the door closed behind her, Alexis took a deep breath. She was representing not just herself, but all of humanity. The weight of that responsibility settled on her shoulders, but instead of feeling burdened, she felt invigorated. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she was ready to face them. After all, she was human. Adaptability was in her DNA. The challenge. The first week at the Galactic Concordat Academy passed in a blur of new experiences for Alexis. She marveled at the advanced technology, struggled with the concept of nonlinear time in her quantum mechanics class, and tried her best to pronounce the clicks and whistles of the galactic standard language. Despite the academic challenges, it was the social aspect that proved most difficult. Many of her classmates kept their distance, their body language or equivalent, betraying a mixture of fear and fascination. Others, like the metallic being she had noticed on her first day, watched her with an unsettling intensity. It was during her comparative combat techniques class that things came to a head. Professor Krelbnor, a grizzled veteran of the Arcturian Wars, floated at the front of the classroom, his gelatinous form rippling with barely contained excitement. "Today," Krelbnor announced, his voice a gurgling growl, "we will be conducting practical exercises in our state-of-the-art combat simulator. You will face off against the latest in autonomous combat drones, testing your species' natural abilities against the pinnacle of galactic military technology." A wave of excited murmurs swept through the class. Alexis felt a mix of anticipation and apprehension. This was her chance to show what humans were capable of, but she was also acutely aware of the scrutiny she was under. The class filed into the simulator room, a vast, empty space with shimmering walls that could generate any environment or opponent. One by one, students stepped forward to face the combat drones. Alexis watched as her classmates showcased their species' unique abilities. A Vespid student used its lightning-fast reflexes to dodge energy blasts. A Croxian relied on its stone-like skin to absorb hits. The metallic being she had noticed earlier, which she now knew was called a synthoid, interfaced directly with the drone, attempting to override its systems. Finally, it was Alexis's turn. She stepped into the center of the room, acutely aware of the eyes of her classmates and instructors upon her. "Begin simulation," Professor Krelbnor gurgled. The air shimmered, and Alexis found herself in a rocky, barren landscape. A sleek, hovering drone materialized before her, its surface bristling with weapons. For a moment, Alexis stood still, assessing her opponent. The drone was faster, stronger, and better armed than she was. But Alexis had something the drone didn't: the culmination of millions of years of evolution on a planet that constantly tried to kill her ancestors. The drone made the first move, firing a barrage of energy bolts. Alexis dove and rolled, her muscles responding with the speed and precision honed by years of training. She could hear gasps from her classmates as she narrowly avoided each shot. But Alexis wasn't just avoiding. She was analyzing. With each dodge, she was learning the drone's attack patterns, noting the slight delay between its targeting system and weapons discharge. As she rolled behind a boulder, Alexis's mind raced. The drone's technology was far beyond anything she had faced before, but its tactics were predictable, almost textbook. It lacked the creativity, the adaptability that humans had developed over countless conflicts. Alexis emerged from cover, But instead of retreating, she charged directly at the drone. This unexpected move seemed to confuse its targeting systems momentarily. She used that split second of hesitation to close the distance. Just as the drone prepared to fire at point-blank range, Alexis dropped and slid underneath it. In one fluid motion, she reached up, grabbing onto a protruding sensor array, and swung herself onto the drone's back. The classroom erupted in chaos. No one had ever seen a tactic like this used against a combat drone. "Impossible," shouted the synthoid student. The drone's shield should have repelled any physical contact. But Alexis wasn't done. Clinging to the wildly bucking drone, she began to pry open an access panel she had noticed during her earlier observations. Inside was a bewildering array of alien technology, but Alexis didn't need to understand it. She just needed to disrupt it. With a grunt of effort, she yanked out a handful of glowing circuits. The drone shuddered, its anti-gravity systems failing, and both human and machine crashed to the ground. Alexis rolled clear, coming up in a defensive stance, ready for a counterattack. But it wasn't necessary. The drone lay inert, its systems completely shut down. The simulation faded, revealing the stunned faces of her classmates and instructors. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then Professor Krelbenor's gelatinous form quivered with what Alexis had learned was laughter. "By the cosmic winds," he gurgled, "I haven't seen anything like that in all my cycles." The classroom erupted in a cacophony of excited chatter. Alexis found herself surrounded by classmates, all talking at once. "How did you know where the access panel was?" asked a Vespid student, mandibles clicking in excitement. "Your species can withstand such impacts," marveled a floating gas bag being. Even the synthoid approached, its metallic features unreadable. "Your tactics were unconventional," it said, in a tone Alexis couldn't quite decipher. "Most intriguing." As the excitement died down, Professor Krelbenor floated over to Alexis. "Cadet Chin," he gurgled, "I must admit, when I heard we were getting a human student, I was skeptical. Your species is so young, so new to the galactic stage. But what you've shown today, it's remarkable." Alexis stood a little straighter, pride swelling in her chest. "Thank you, Professor. On Earth, we have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. We've had to be creative to survive." Kreldenor's form rippled, and what Alexis had learned was a nod. "Indeed, I think we all have much to learn from each other." Class dismissed, but Cadet Chen, please stay behind. I believe we have much to discuss. As her classmates filed out, still buzzing with excitement, Alexis couldn't help but smile. She had come here to learn, but it seemed she had some things to teach as well. The challenge had been met, but she knew this was only the beginning. The real test would be what came next. The aftermath. News of Alexis' performance in the combat simulator spread through the Galactic Concordat Academy like wildfire. Within hours, every student, professor, and staff member had heard about the human who had defeated a state-of-the-art combat drone using nothing but her bare hands and quick thinking. The following days saw a dramatic shift in how Alexis was perceived. Where once she had been met with wary glances and hushed whispers, now she found herself the center of attention. Students from various species approached her, eager to learn more about human combat techniques and survival skills. In the Academy's vast communal dining hall, Alexis found herself surrounded by a diverse group of alien students, all clamoring for her attention. "Is it true that humans train in combat from a young age?" chirped Zix, a bird-like avian with iridescent feathers. Alexis chuckled, carefully swallowing a mouthful of what passed for food in the academy. "Not exactly. Some of us do train in martial arts or sports from childhood, but it's not universal. We just have a knack for adapting to challenging situations." A Croxian named Grok rumbled from across the table, his stony skin grating as he leaned forward. "But your planet, I've heard it's full of dangers. Extreme temperatures, natural disasters, predators. How do you survive?" "We adapt," Alexis replied simply. "Throughout our history, We've faced countless challenges. Each one has made us stronger, more resilient. We learn, we innovate, we overcome. As the conversation continued, Alexis noticed the synthoid student observing from a distance. Unlike the others, it hadn't approached her since the simulator incident. There was something in its unwavering gaze that made Alexis uneasy. Her thoughts were interrupted by Professor Sixlorth, who glided up to their table. Cadet Chen, a word if you please. Excusing herself, Alexis followed the professor to a quiet corner of the hall. Sixlorth's skin shimmered with what Alexis had learned to recognize as concern. Cadet, I hope you understand the impact your performance has had, Sixlorth said, his voice low. While many are impressed, others are unsettled. The Galactic Council has taken notice. Alexis felt a weight settle in her stomach. I didn't mean to cause any trouble, Professor. I was just doing my best in the simulation. Sixlorth's tentacles waved dismissively. No one is accusing you of wrongdoing, Cadet. But your display of adaptability and resourcefulness has raised questions about humanity's potential role in galactic affairs. Some see it as an opportunity, others as a threat. Before Alexis could respond, a commotion near the entrance of the dining hall caught their attention. A group of official-looking aliens had entered, led by a tall, imposing figure Alexis recognized from her galactic politics classes, Ambassador Krelix of the Zygon Imperium, one of the most powerful factions in the Galactic Concordat. The ambassador's multifaceted eyes scanned the room before locking onto Alexis. With purposeful strides, he made his way towards her, the crowd of students parting before him. So, Ambassador Krelix's voice was a low rumble. This is the human who has caused such a stir. His eyes narrowed as he studied Alexis. Impressive for a species so young. Tell me, human, do you believe your kind is ready for the responsibilities that come with galactic citizenship? Alexis straightened her posture, meeting the ambassador's gaze steadily. With all due respect, Ambassador, I believe we've already proven ourselves ready. Humanity has faced countless challenges on Earth. We've overcome them through innovation, cooperation, and sheer determination. Those same qualities will serve us well as we take our place among the stars. A murmur rippled through the gathered crowd. Ambassador Krelix's expression was unreadable, but there was a glint in his eyes that might have been respect or calculation. Bold words, he said finally, but words alone are not enough. The Galactic Council will be watching humanity's progress closely. Your actions here, Cadet Chen, have ensured that. With that, the ambassador turned and strode out of the dining hall, his entourage hurrying to keep up. As the doors closed behind them, the hall erupted into excited chatter. Professor Sixlorth placed a tentacle gently on Alexis's shoulder. You handled that well, Cadet. But I fear your challenges are only beginning. The eyes of the galaxy are upon you now. Alexis nodded, her mind racing. She had come to the Academy to learn, to help humanity find its place among the stars. Now it seemed she had become an unwitting ambassador for her entire species. As she looked around at the faces of her alien classmates, some excited, some wary, all curious, Alexis realized that her actions from this point on would shape not just her own future, but potentially the future of humanity's role in the galaxy. The combat simulator had been one thing, but this was a challenge on an entirely different scale. Yet as the weight of responsibility settled on her shoulders, Alexis felt a familiar determination rising within her. This was just another problem to solve, another obstacle to overcome. After all, that's what humans did best. As the excitement in the dining hall began to die down, Alexis noticed the synthoid student slipping out of a side door. There was something about its movements, a sense of purpose that hadn't been there before. Alexis couldn't shake the feeling that while one challenge had been overcome, another was just beginning. Little did she know how right she was, or how soon she would be tested again. The investigation. In the days following Ambassador Krelix's visit, an air of tension settled over the Galactic Concordat Academy. Alexis found herself under constant scrutiny, not just from her fellow students and professors, but from shadowy figures she glimpsed in the corridors, undoubtedly observers from various galactic factions. Despite the pressure, Alexis threw herself into her studies with renewed vigor. She was determined to prove that humanity deserved its place among the stars, not just through physical prowess, but through intellectual achievement as well. It was during an advanced xenobiology class that things took an unexpected turn. Professor Lyrax, a multi-limbed Arcturian known for his brilliant but erratic teaching style, was lecturing on the adaptive capabilities of various species. And so we see, Lyrax gesticulated wildly with three of his arms, that even the most seemingly inhospitable environments can spawn life, given enough time and the right conditions. Which brings us to our newest galactic neighbors, the humans. Alexis felt every eye in the room turned towards her. Kadet Chin, Lyrax called out, perhaps you could enlighten us on how your species adapted to the extreme conditions of Earth. Our data suggests your planet should be too hostile for complex life to evolve. Yet here you are. Alexis stood, her mind racing. This was her chance to showcase humanity's intellectual side. Well, Professor, it's a combination of factors. Our bodies are remarkably adaptable, capable of surviving in a wide range of temperatures and environments. But more importantly, we've developed tools and technologies to overcome our physical limitations. She went on to explain concepts like clothing, shelter, and agriculture. Ideas so basic to humans, but seemingly revolutionary to many of her classmates. As she spoke, Alexis noticed the synthoid student watching her intently. Unlike the others, its gaze held not fascination, but something closer to calculation. Professor Lyrax was nodding enthusiastically. Fascinating. This use of external tools to overcome biological limitations, it's not unique in the galaxy, but the extent to which humans have embraced it is remarkable. It's almost as if... The professor's words were cut off by a sudden, blaring alarm. The classroom's lights flashed red, and a synthesized voice echoed through the room. Security breach detected. All students and faculty report to designated safe zones immediately. Chaos erupted as students rushed for the exits. Professor Lyrax attempted to maintain order, his multiple limbs waving frantically. Remain calm. Proceed to the nearest. His words were drowned out by a deafening explosion that rocked the entire building. Through the haze of dust and debris, Alexis saw a group of figures enter the room. They were clad in sleek, black armor unlike anything she'd seen before. Locate the human, one of the figures growled in a distorted voice. Subdue but do not terminate. Alexis's combat training kicked in. She ducked behind an overturned desk, her mind racing. Who were these intruders? Why were they after her? As she formulated a plan, she noticed something odd. The synthoid student hadn't fled with the others. Instead, it stood calmly in the center of the room, seemingly unfazed by the chaos around it. One of the armored figures approached the synthoid. Unit 359, report. Have you completed your observation mission? The synthoid's voice was cold, mechanical. Affirmative. The human specimen has demonstrated capabilities beyond our initial projections. Recommendation: immediate acquisition for further study. Alexis felt a chill run down her spine. The synthoid had been a spy all along, gathering data on her, on humanity. But she had no time to dwell on this betrayal. The armored figures were spreading out, searching the room. Alexis knew she couldn't overpower them directly. Their technology was far beyond anything she'd faced before. Then she remembered Professor Lyrax's words. Humans overcame their limitations through tools and ingenuity. Looking around the xenobiology lab, an idea began to form. Alexis grabbed a nearby container of Zeta-9 solution, a powerful mutagen used in their genetic modification experiments. With a silent prayer that her crazy plan would work, she hurled the container at the nearest intruder. The glass shattered, dousing the figure in glowing blue liquid. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a horrifying screech, the armor began to warp and twist, molding itself to the wearer's body. "What's happening?" The figure screamed, clawing at the morphing armor. I can't move." The other intruders turned towards the commotion, momentarily distracted. Alexis seized her chance. She sprinted across the room, vaulting over upturned tables and dodging grasping hands. As she neared the exit, she found her path blocked by the synthoid. Its emotionless eyes bored into her. "Your escape is illogical," it stated flatly. "Surrender now, and your disassembly will be painless." Alexis's mind raced. The synthoid was stronger, faster, and probably smarter than her in many ways. But it lacked something crucial: human unpredictability. In a move that defied all logic and self-preservation instincts, Alexis charged directly at the synthoid. At the last moment, she dropped into a baseball slide, passing between its legs. The synthoid, programmed for efficiency, hadn't anticipated such a reckless move. It turned, servos whirring, but too late. Alexis was through the door and racing down the corridor. Alarms blared and students rushed past her in panic. Through the chaos, she heard the heavy footsteps of her pursuers. As she ran, Alexis's mind was working overtime. This wasn't just about her survival anymore. The presence of the synthoid spy and these mysterious attackers suggested a deeper conspiracy. Someone out there saw humanity as a threat or an opportunity, and was willing to go to extreme lengths to control them. She needed to warn her professors, the Academy leadership, and ultimately, Earth itself. But first, she had to survive. As Alexis rounded a corner, she found herself face to face with Professor Zixlorth and a group of Academy security officers. Cadet Chen. Zixlorth's skin rippled with relief. "Thank the cosmic winds you're safe. We need to get you to a secure location immediately." Alexis shook her head, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "No time. We've been infiltrated. The synthoid. It's been spying on us. And there are others." As if on cue, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor. The armored figures appeared, weapons raised. Professor Zixlorth's tentacles writhed in alarm. "By the void. What are those?" Alexis stepped forward, placing herself between the intruders and her alien companions. Her voice was steady as she addressed the advancing figures. "I don't know who you are or what you want," she said, "but if you're here to learn about humanity, let me teach you one final lesson." She stood tall, her eyes blazing with determination. "We don't give up. We don't back down. And we sure as hell don't let bullies push us around, whether they're from our world or any other." As the intruders raised their weapons, Alexis prepared herself for the fight of her life. Whatever happened next, she would face it as she had faced every challenge since arriving at the Academy, with courage, ingenuity, and the indomitable spirit of humanity. The stage was set for a confrontation that would echo across the galaxy. The true test of humanity's place among the stars was about to begin. The integration. The standoff in the corridor seemed to stretch for an eternity. Alexis stood her ground, her mind racing through possible scenarios, each more desperate than the last. Behind her, Professor Zixlorth and the Academy security officers tensed, ready for action. Suddenly, a new voice boomed through the hallway. "Stand down. By order of the Galactic Concordat High Council." All heads turned to see Ambassador Krelix striding towards them, flanked by a contingent of heavily armed peacekeepers. The ambassador's multifaceted eyes glinted with a mixture of anger and was that respect. "This farce ends now," Krelix rumbled. "Drop your weapons and surrender peacefully, or face the full might of the Concordat." For a moment, the armored intruders hesitated. Then, with a collective hiss of frustration, they lowered their weapons. The synthoid, which had been pursuing Alexis, froze in place, its systems apparently shut down by some unseen signal. As the peacekeepers moved in to secure the intruders, Ambassador Krelix approached Alexis. "It seems, Cadet Chen, that you have an uncanny ability to be at the center of galactic shaking events." Alexis straightened, meeting the ambassador's gaze. "Sir, with all due respect, what's going on? Who are these intruders? And why was there a spy in our academy? Krelix sighed, a sound like grinding stones. It appears that certain factions within the galactic community have taken an unhealthy interest in humanity's potential. Your performance in the combat simulator was merely the catalyst for a plan long in the making. He gestured towards the captured intruders. These are agents of the hegemony of unified minds, a secretive group that believes in the superiority of synthetic life. They've long pushed for the replacement of organic beings in positions of power. Alexis's mind reeled. And the Synthoid student? A deep cover operative, Krelix confirmed, tasked with observing and analyzing human capabilities. Your actions, Cadet Chen, convinced them that humanity posed a significant threat to their plans. Professor Zixlorth floated forward, his skin rippling with concern. But surely the Concordat wouldn't allow such a blatant violation of galactic law. Indeed not, Krelix rumbled, which is why I'm here. We've been tracking the hegemony's activities for some time, but we needed irrefutable proof of their intentions. Thanks to Cadet Chen's unconventional tactics, we now have that proof. Alexis felt a wave of relief, quickly followed by a surge of anger. So I was bait. The entire academy was put at risk just to draw out these extremists. Krelix had the grace to look abashed, his antennae drooping slightly. A regrettable necessity, Cadet, but one that has potentially saved countless lives across the galaxy. As the implications of the day's events sank in, a crowd began to gather. Students and faculty from diverse species watched in awe as the drama unfolded. Alexis looked around at the faces of her alien classmates, the Vespid, the Croxian, the floating gas bag beings, and many others. She saw fear, confusion, but also hope. In that moment, she realized that this wasn't just about humanity's place in the galaxy. It was about the future of all species working together. With a deep breath, Alexis stepped forward, addressing not just the ambassador, but all those gathered. What happened today is bigger than just one human, or even humanity as a whole. She began, her voice carrying through the hushed corridor. It's about the kind of galaxy we want to live in. One where we fear each other's differences, or one where we celebrate them. She gestured towards the captured intruders. These individuals chose fear. They saw humanity's adaptability as a threat. But I see it differently. Our ability to overcome challenges, to think creatively, to work together despite our differences. These are strengths we can all share. Alexis turned to face her fellow students. Each of us, every species represented here, has something unique to offer. Imagine what we could accomplish if we combined the Vespid's lightning reflexes, the Croxian's resilience, the analytical prowess of synthetic beings, and yes, humanity's adaptability. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Even Ambassador Krelix nodded thoughtfully. The galaxy is vast and full of wonders, Alexis continued, but it's also dangerous. We'll face challenges we can't even imagine yet, but if today has taught me anything, it's that we're stronger together than we ever could be apart. As Alexis finished speaking, a moment of silence fell over the gathered crowd. Then, slowly at first, but with growing enthusiasm, applause broke out. It wasn't just clapping. It was a cacophony of sounds as each species expressed approval in their own unique way. Ambassador Krelix stepped forward, his imposing form seeming to soften slightly. Well said, Cadet Chen. Perhaps it is time for the Galactic Concordat to reconsider its approach to integrating new species. He turned to address the crowd. Let this day mark a new chapter in galactic history, one of true cooperation and mutual understanding. In the days and weeks that followed, the Galactic Concordat Academy became a symbol of this new approach. The curriculum was overhauled, with a greater emphasis on collaborative problem-solving and cross-species teamwork. Alexis found herself at the center of these changes, working alongside beings she once considered alien to develop new technologies, strategies, and ways of thinking that combined the best aspects of all their species. The Synthoid that had once spied on her became a valuable ally, its analytical capabilities complementing human intuition in ways that pushed the boundaries of what was thought possible. As for the hegemony of unified minds, their plot exposed, they faced the justice of the galactic concordat. But even in this, a new approach was taken. Instead of punishment, they were offered a chance at rehabilitation, to see the value in organic and synthetic life working in harmony. Years later, as Alexis stood on the bridge of the first truly multi-species exploration vessel, preparing to venture into uncharted regions of the galaxy, she couldn't help but smile. The ship's crew was a vivid tapestry of life from across the known universe, each bringing their unique strengths to the mission. As the ship's engines hummed to life, Alexis thought back to that day in the Academy corridor. The day when humanity truly found its place among the stars, not through dominance or fear, but through understanding, adaptability, and the simple yet powerful idea that we are all stronger together. The galaxy awaited, vast and full of challenges, but with the combined strengths of countless species working as one, Alexis knew that whatever they faced, they would face it together. And in that unity, they were unstoppable.